especially the entire nation, all of America was based on philosophy.
Most definitely.
We didn't make any bones about it. We didn't hide it. We're like, look, we look back through time, and it's on nowhere near the scale, but the same thing I did when I created the Southern Collective experience. But you look back and you go, what has not worked? This is a renovative, like, this makes the wheel fresh again, kind of thinking, let's pause. Smoke a cigarette, drink beer, talk about your mom and them, get comfortable, and then look back through time and go, what has sucked and never ever worked? The people that keep trying and it keeps sucking and keep not working, and not do that. And then look over here, we're going to say, what's this other stuff that's worked and worked really well? And people seem to like this across the board, and then do that.
Yeah, and
like and sticks.
Sorry. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of get Jordan in on the conversation here. What are some of the questions that you wanted to ask?
Yeah. So with your radio show, Dante's Old South, I think that you said that reading poetry in a public setting was painstakingly boring for people, and I think this is maybe a direct quotation. Makes people run like hell. And so how and like that's kind of like what we're handling is how do you make philosophy, and I think the same thing for you, poetry, how do you make it engaging for people? How do you make it like not entertaining, but how do you make it interesting so people
it's entertaining, you're right. You've got to, I'm sorry if I'm cutting in on your question, but it's like how do you make it applicable again? How do you draw on people again to care?
Yeah.
Well, I think
not run like hell.
And I think part of
not run like hell. That's honestly because poetry readings, artists, I mean, unfortunately, philosophers thrown into that whole context, that lexicon of artist.
Fine with that.
Where they say I'm gonna get up on a soapbox and talk straight to you.
Go for it.
We've given you one. We've actually
step on up.
It's actually more like a DVD box because that's what's elevating my iPad for the viewers at home to make sure that it's in frame. So
I mean, it's just people think. It's one word, and it's a big responsibility. And philosophers, I use so much of it in my classes when I teach because one, it's applicable, but two, folks who have gone to college. Again, it's been one of those sciences, philosophy, thinking, using this big muscle right here. Truly a science where it's been kind of relegated and shelved off to the side, and it's not current enough. It's not universal. It was at a time. It was then. And it's not. I mean, philosophy is every single day. I teach philosophy with my language students because philosophers use language. Now, it may be different, of course, someone Keats, or Locke, and Nietzsche. You go back longer with Plato, Aristotle, and you go through translations. Schopenhauer, man, you talking about a grumpy old man. That man never smiled a day in his life. And that was Nietzsche's, go-to guy. He didn't have a chance. Anyway, no. Oh, that's my boo. The Lord is an existentialist. That's what's messed up. It ain't no, give me that you have to meet him halfway. And what is that? Existentialism. People they don't want to, people of reason, typically, and that's ain't all, when you get in trouble. They have no issue having an idea that there's this greater purpose and thing and movement. The science proves that all this is mathematically exactly perfect. I mean, perfect. It just happened. Now, I'm not saying we had to put names on it, start flying around saying we saw angels, but there's something magic about it. But when you try to spin it around and put knowledge on people, and I'm not ever standing up trying to point down and say, you should do what I say you should do. I know better than anybody, or that I'm better than anyone. It's not true, and it's not what I'm doing. But to think, to examine your life, to play a soul of Socrates. He and Seneca both, they thought a lot, and they were both forced to kill themselves. And so there's a great deal to take into consideration when you want to walk. I want to say The Road Less Traveled by Frost, but that's the most misunderstood, misinterpreted poem in almost the entire English language. Frost was not meaning it the way we took it. He was making fun of his buddy who made a big deal out of every single decision he ever made. And so the whole poem was about you come up to you can go this way or you go this way, just pick and just go. Which I love. It's a whole new philosophy. It doesn't squash the idea. You can still believe it's the harder way. And it is true, man. If you're gonna ask more from the universe doesn't punish you for it. It doesn't beat you down for it. You just have to earn it. Because when you get it and you've earned it, you don't throw it away. It's like everything else in life. Now I'm not old. I finally just got a girlfriend. Finally. Score 14. Mom was like, thank you, baby Jesus. Mom was mad. They do that scary thing that women do where y'all can talk to each other and not say a word. I see you. And that's creepy. I can't do nothing about it. And there's some women that would watch this and go, that man knows too much.
He's on
women
to
know
us.
how to make, I know this is kind of gross and off color, but make sperm or collect enough. Men are obsolete. Know this, gentlemen, if you look at me when I say this. Once they figure that out, we are obsolete. Y'all can build y'all's own houses, kill your own bugs, do all your own yard work, govern any way you want to. Men, we have one thing. Be nice.
Yeah.
Be nice.
Yeah.
And then you have a rainbow with that star come through, remember growing up, and now you know. That's what we need. But we don't. But to go back to your question, I do this. I make ADD work for me.
That's fine, man. I think we all do.
I think it departs is my next book, and I've had 5 asks, 3 are reviewing the manuscripts now, and I never over-edit. I've gotten much better with this book versus my first book. Of course, with practice, that's how you get to Carnegie Hall, but telling the story and learning how to be honest the first time. Because both my editors are scientists at seeing where I start to stray off, where I start to soften my language. Still to this day, do I get to something that's real painful? I don't want to talk about it, but I kind of want to talk about it. And they can just line in on it, just beat it on it like a laser pointer. And say, all right, you're going to say it. That's the big thing. They both came down to say it or don't say it. And when Writer's Digest came to me and said, we want you to do a whole article on how you edit. Okay. And it comes down to the philosophy of the way you use words, the philosophy of what is your philosophy as far as writing, which all goes back to the philosophy you choose in life. And it is a common thread, and it is very applicable. And there are philosophers today, Foucault, it's not today, he's a contemporary favorite of mine. But mathematicians, anybody that's in a string theory, you're talking straight philosophy. And I'm not detracting from string theory for being a mathematical science. It absolutely is. But it's where poetry and philosophy and mathematics all blend. And so this idea of right brain, left brain, that's obtuse.
Yeah, most definitely. Something that I wanted to ask you about that I thought was very curious about what you said earlier on in the conversation was about how you grew up just telling stories, that you're particularly entranced with the idea of continuing to tell stories. I guess I wanted to have you kind of sort of philosophically ponder the value of narrative. Why do you find it so engaging? And if it's the narrative itself that's philosophically interesting, or do you use narrative to weave philosophical lessons into it?
All the above.
All the above.
I'll explain myself. No, truly, you have some of those where you have ideas, and I think the stories, poetry, going back a step, poetry is the mother language. It really is. And that's the one thing that I do, and why they have me come do college lectures that have far more to do with the business of art than actually reading poetry, which is a cool trade-up. But it's surreal to be talking to mainly a room full of business students versus poets, which, to be honest with you, there's a lot more of them, less of them going, oh, no good would like me, because they don't know you're a dude, man. Quit crying so much. It's not like that anymore. But for me, philosophy, the reason in poetry starting it all out is in song. That's why poetry rhymes. Is that we learned early, before we could write down, is all oral tradition, that if we sing it, that's how God speaks to us. That's why you can hear Beethoven play Moonlight Sonata. I don't care where you're from or how you do it. You sit down there long enough. If I ask you, what does this song make you feel? Agony. So some variation thereof will be the answer, inevitably. With all the classes and hundreds of students I've had. Never is it. How does that happen?
Yeah.
It's music. And so music goes from poetry into telling stories. And stories, again, it engages people. It makes them want to listen. When you straight lecture somebody, there's the more cerebral type of person that is engaged by that. But that same person will be engaged and more if you take it and you turn that lecture into a parable. And if you do put some of yourself in there. But not the usual American 90 to 95% finger-swinging whirlwind emotion and 5 to 10% fact. You flip that and you stick to fact. The other person is going to look insane if you're arguing that the water's wet, sky is blue, and grass is green. You can find reasoning in anything, but you got to take that time and philosophically tear it apart. And so when I create poetry, there are moments being it that I do believe in the divine, that there are some poems that come from things that are more applicable to my life now than when I wrote it 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Totally.
And it's the applicability and the malleability, but philosophy has that same story. They use a language that they want, and they want it translated into languages that as many people as possible can understand, because it's new, innovative, possibly freedom-inducing. Ooh, be afraid of that. Thoughts and ideas and words. But that freedom comes with the jealousy of others who don't have it. So there's not really a dark side. It's both sides of it. And that's what really kind of comes through in my, not kind of, I don't like when people say that, or a lot. I don't like when people say that either. It's like very and really to me. It's a lazy word. But my poetry engages in a story. And to be honest with you, absolutely honest, everything that you hear my poetry say, the philosophy, I'll reference Seneca, and I've referenced. Now, I want to know the truth. Is it Sartre or Sartre?
It's tomato. I don't speak French, so I can't say with certainty.
I say Sartre because it's.
I quote him and Seneca and talk about Nietzsche. And if I talk about people, anybody, I have a whole section of my book that's on jazz, musicians. I love them. I don't drop names. And again, there's a lot of poetry. I don't explain this, but the same thing in philosophy is like, well, I think this grand thing, and here's an idea that's kind of close to this other old dude that's really dead is used, that sounds kind of close. Really smart people that are looking for that deeper meaning are going to see that clunkiness. Well, you're just kind of stealing off this guy. And it's the same thing in poetry. And to be absolutely honest with you, this will make many people not like me a great deal. And it's not nearly as bad as you think. There's no swear words. I'm going to keep all my clothes on. I was about 30. I'm 41 now, so I was about probably 34, 35 years old. An agent in New York had contacted me about my prose. I wrote short stories and a novel idea that I've been working on. I like what people say, because when you're a nerd and you hear like a novel idea, it could be a novel or an original idea that's novel. Mm-hmm. Don't air that. Don't talk to me about Oxford commas either. Do you use them or do you not, by the way? I should, no, don't answer that. That's like college football on the South. Don't answer that. But anyway.
We'll table that.
Don't do it. Because if you don't use the Oxford comma, we're not friends. The Oxford comma. Mm-hmm.
I personally take Nietzsche's stance on grammar. It's a sign of a dying God. It's Victorian morality that we still are.
Because you are not a classicist. Grammar is everything.
I
love the Oxford comma.
Yeah.
And thank you, Jordan. You're in the wheel. Luke.
Thank you.
I'll get back at this sometime, buddy.
Get out of here.
Me and you, it's on and popping.
Well,
I'm playing for real. No, seriously. It's the themes of my poetry. It's all, to me, autobiographical. I don't see how any poet, in fiction you can say, well, that raging racist lunatic woman hating misogynist, that's not me. That's a character I made up in life. But if you're a writer, poet or not, you know that if you make a character that convincing, you yourself may not share those qualities, but you understand. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But to create a character, be it in poetry or in prose, there's got to be a little bit more than you really are comfortable with being in that character. And it sounds dramatic when you say that in classes on how, number one, you can't tell somebody how to write. Now, I'm not being dramatic about that and squash anybody's dreams. It's the same thing with philosophy. You can't come up and tell somebody how to think. That's what got Socrates killed. They're just walking around being like, hey, man, let me ask you this question. Come here, man. For real. Oh, you're rich as hell? Well, that's cool. I mean, I'm not trying to steal your money. I'm not asking you for anything. Why do you think that that's true? And then there's the other lesson again. It's like, don't mess with the rich. Leave them alone. Let them think what they want to think. You can think what you want and you can get by. Because money ain't always paying attention. So you can think enough and just kind of shimmy. Do that. Trust me, you don't do anything else. But with poetry, my problem was, Jordan, to get back to what you were asking about having people come out who will listen and give it a chance. One, you have to straight up trick them. Straight up trick them. We call ours the collective sessions, and they are like festivals. I mean, when we have people come out and read poetry, it's like they have the right amount of theatrics in it. And if you're a storyteller, you do all the voices and you do all the little scary things, and you would be amazed. No, you wouldn't be amazed. How many people in the crowd who are grown adults get that, that look on their face when they're doing it? They want to know what's going on. And then we have these musicians who are folky in the sense that they play unplugged, but not always. And the best thing you have, when you have artwork around these places, let's come in and basically do these festivals. We're not selling anything we're not talking about. We're selling the exact same thing. These are festivals. They're festivals, the collective sessions, the Southern Collective Experience. Collective sessions. And we've just finished. Oh, so dude, I have it. I'm like, but when you cut this part out, because I'm like, and I knew we were doing this, and so this is why I have one of our brand new brochures that that explains the collective sessions. See how I did that?
No, that's great.
See, this is my first time too. Y'all
You're born natural.
Like a snack virgin. This is cool. But it's no, really, I'm not trying to be that cheesy. I mean, I am, because I'm serious. That's where the magazine came from, and that's what you do. Literally, that's how you do it. You don't ever piggyback. You look around, you look at other people that are saying, and not for like, don't look at other people. Again, I ain't trying to tell you what to do. Well, not to do, but you never look around and say, what else is somebody doing that's working, and I'm going to do exactly that. That's stupid. And that's what a lot of people do. That's where they make their first mistake. They've already got one of those. They've already got one. It's doing really well. So see what kind of venue, see what kind of music that they like, and then you switch it and make it your flavor. Totally. And as far as my poetry, going back to this story, I know it's amazing how I can do this in serious. But going back to how my agent, one of my prose, I sent him my prose in the very last minute. I don't know why I did this. I threw in 3 poems that I thought were decent, that I had written in my whole life. 3 poems, just threw them in. This was, I don't know, Monday, Friday, that coming Friday, his assistant calls and says, Clifford, we want to talk to you about this poetry. And I said, what? The poetry. I was like, I didn't remember I put it in. I'm serious, this is straight up truth. America can hate me. And I said, oh, yeah, I just threw something in there. She's like, well, you meant to, didn't you? I said, yes, I did. No, lie. Everything I want to tell you is the truth, but I was lying. And she said, okay, well, we're going to put Mark on the phone. I'm like, okay, cool. He says, Cliff, man, this Southern poetry, I mean, it's got a story, it's got thought, it's got a direction. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I intended. Because I sit down and I write poetry on the regular, for real, all serious. That's to say that. I'm not being coy or a humble person, because I can be an asshole. I can. I'm not trying to make it cool, just telling the truth. But in prose, when you tell a story, you don't realize, and I didn't realize, and again, how I'm going back to prose now and writing like articles and prose pieces, how being a poet, for me, becoming a poet the same way that I've finally been, I think y'all the first person I'd be able to tell, like just gonna shake the earth or whatever. Everybody's tweeting about Cliff. But I write poetry the same way musicians put notes on a page. I've been trying to figure out forever how it is I do that, because mine's never in rhyme driven. There are some that have that quality, but it's to induce kind of a sing-song quality that makes you lull into a place you believe is safe, and then it's really about something tragic. Like the poem that got me into the Creative Society that I didn't know had been put into said contest about becoming an alcoholic. Now, I'm not ashamed of that.
You shouldn't be.
But I quit drinking when I was like 23, and I'm not bragging about it to anybody because the hungover was terrible, and I acted like an asshole. And I was like, I'm a bloated ass, and nobody wants to date me or kiss me. End up by myself, stinking and hurting like hell the next day. I don't think this is for me. Now, I'm not making it light of the struggle because it's real, and I had it. And you see it in the poetry, but it all goes back to my philosophy of poetry is that you tell a story. If people are going to take the time, really, seriously, you're going to take the time now to invest again in poetry. If you're going to be this avant-garde, not even avant-garde, but somebody really who's kind of the anti-avant-garde. Like, let me give you something that you can read and understand and love, and it can take on its own meaning with you. But just like with Frost, me telling you that it's, long been held and discovered that it meant something completely different, it doesn't change its meaning to you. As long as people have been, like, absolutely wrong, and sometimes so much smarter about what they think I'm writing about that I've been like, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Can I write that down real quick? So as long as it's not like hurting children or slapping old women that they're getting out of my poetry, which I don't do, we're cool. You have to tell the truth. When you tell the truth, the ultimate philosophy, the lesson that never fades, that mantra that never ever gets old, morality is pointless. Money makes morality subject to change. That's mine. I made that up, but you can put that any way you want to. Money makes morality subject. Ethics are immutable. If you want to go to the 10 Commandments to just walk in everyday life, ethics do not change. They do not change. It is or it is not. I mean, it's Kant who said, if you're going to talk to me about what is good, you're going to make it all about like where you're from, what you're feeling, who you're with, what your parents, how many hugs did you give, what kind of pills are you taking. At the end of the day, if you're about to do something that you wouldn't do in front of your tightest friends, your boys, your girls, those that are right there with you and would take their to the grave, they would lie for you on the stand. If you wouldn't do it in front of them, don't do it. That's good and that's bad.
Well,
sound advice.
Well, the thing is, you were saying about Kant, right? I mean, I think you probably have to contextualize that a little bit, because ultimately when you do sort of have this sort of Kantian decision making, it is based more about the intuitive rationality of the moral decision within your own consciousness, but you sort of envision this kingdom of ends as well, like you talk about. I think one of the things I think is really interesting about this conversation that we're having about how to make philosophy and poetry relevant to society is, I really think it comes down to the force of personality. Right? Like I could listen to you talk all day long. And I think pretty much like you're probably selling books and selling poems and stories and things like that really on the strength of your personality. And that's what I think is so cool about the mediums that we're working in here with sounds and visuals and things like that, is like when we keep asking these questions about how do we make philosophy relevant, we're doing it. We're doing it. Well, we're doing it right now. I think when Jordan's personality comes through, when my personality comes through, and your personality comes through, we don't have to make a sound argument for why you ought to study philosophy. It's right in front of your face. Do you want to be an interesting person? And frankly, Cliff, you're fascinating. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man. I'm not trying to be. I'll say this over and over again. And I mean, so I apologize again, but I'm never falsely humble. Like, I'm not going to say, I don't know why people like my poetry so much. I don't know why I mean, it's awesome. But at the same time, it's the same pride you should have in creating this show. I mean, and taking something that you said it, you said it. It's in the doing of it. Mm-hmm. It's the doing of it. And again, these are things that you learn to because people plan all day long. I don't like the gerund people. Yeah. I call them the gerund people, the INGs. That I'm going to. Yeah. I'm planning to do. I don't want to hear the word potential. I don't want to hear the word potential ever. And if I sound haughty, damn it to hell. I don't care. Well, because when you think about it in context of someone using it in conversation, typically, I'm going to say typically, 98% of the time, something like, well, Steve had the potential to do great things, but then he just got on the dope and fell off the wagon. And the potential means you can do it, but your lazy ass chose not to.
Yeah, potential can be a real dark curse. Right? Yeah, potential is terrible.
But again, just like you, just like me, you know damn well, Jordan, you the same way. You in this conversation too. I ain't heard you say a word in like 30 minutes.
You should jump in there.
I'm going to run my mouth you over there like, Cliff, I've got 7 questions. You didn't answer my first. You know, I'm talking about butterflies in your facial hair. I don't know what's going on. I promise I didn't know anything. But at the same time, it's what you're doing. And that's why with the collective, we now have had to put together a mission statement. And it's not that we shied from it. It's just that mission statements so typically say, this is who we are, this is what we believe, this is what we don't believe, and this is how we're going to change the world, or either this is how we're going to return it to some utopian way it was in the past. And you sound haughty. Not you've never done it. I'm just saying the universal you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if we were to do that, it would sound haughty. It would sound elitist, not being absolutely untrue. I mean, again, as much as people don't want to say it, is that you have to deal consistently with the best people.
Right.
And I'm not talking about, like, again, if you're talented and making enough money, but you're an absolute jackass, I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with you. I mean, it's like, that's something else. Like, people throw, you know, it's not so much signing a deal with the devil. It turns out you have to have to deal with assholes. Yeah. And that's the whole reason that the collective created the Southern Collective experience. And I'm not trying to promote that. I mean, that's mainly why people know of me now in this part of my career, which is what I'm thrilled about. You know, at first it was about the book, and then when the book came out, and no one, again, I'm not trying to be overly humble, I swear to you, no one saw The Draw Broken Eyes of Worldly Metaphysics coming out 4 years ago, as of like 4 days ago. Came out 4 days ago, I think on Monday. It came out 4 years ago. Still be relevant. That note that I had made at such a point to put a pin in earlier about 2 books in one, and the book is, I just happen to have one of those right here. With the chances of that shit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And just, I'm really in a men's bathroom at a Hardee's. No, it's 209 pages. It's in paperback. It's $18. Now that would sound like, well, Cliff, now you got off into promotion land. No,
that's fine.
It's something that people will buy. You will pay $18 for that many pages. 2 books with an epic. You can go on a journey. You can take $18. That's where poets get it wrong in so many respects, is that, one, they go the way of forgetting the oldest mantra, you only judge a book by its cover. So why don't you take that maxim the one time it applies to the book cover and think, I need to pop some money on this.
Well, people have to understand.
When I say put it on this, it's in with the it's what gets taken out of your piece of the profit once your publisher publishes you. Self-publishing is a very, 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 very tricky, slippery slope. People feel vehemently about it one way or the other. If you ask me about legitimate, if you throw that word in there, and I'm not trying to be snobby, but talking about if the ability to be nominated for awards and carried by Barnes & Noble and all, these mom and pop stores, you have to have distribution. These things take the time to work with them. You have to work with an editor that does not know you and does not like you sometimes. And they push you, just like with philosophy. If we were friends, again, they're not easy sciences, but they're so easy to enmesh because poetry is always philosophy. Poetry is always philosophy. Don't give a shit what anybody says, unless it's that cryptic garbage that came after Pound. That means nothing. It's philosophy. You're talking about something that's dear to you in a way that your mind is working it out, in a way that it applies to whether you believe it's the outside world, the two trains of thought, it's the outside world that's real, or it's the inside world that's real, enforcing our will upon the outside of the country. Which one we do this? This is what poets do all the time. Storytellers do it all the time. They've chosen a moral. They've chosen a point. There's a laughter. There's a humor. There's some reason that we pick these words that we do, and it's the philosophical bent that drives us to use these words. And to be an artist, to be a philosopher, is to be an artist. To be,
I believe we lost Cliff there for a second. I'll call him right back, but I think the main thing I want to do here as we're calling Cliff back is I think what I want to do, Jordan, is I want to make sure that you kind of get the final question in there.
That was just kind of my
Hey, Cliff, you're back, buddy. We lost you for a second. Hey, I wanted to make sure we're at the 34-minute mark, and I wanted to make sure that Jordan had a chance to ask kind of a closing question. Is that all right with you, buddy?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really have too many questions prepared, just kind of jotted stuff down. But I was really really interested by your quote from Nietzsche in the Draw of Broken Eyes in Whirling Metaphysics. And I'll read the quote just for our listeners. There's one thing one has to have, either a soul that is cheerful by nature or a soul made cheerful by work, love, art, and knowledge. So I was and I read that, and that really resonated with me because I think that you are you do literature and poetry, and we're philosophers. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what's the relationship in your mind between art and poetry and happiness? Because I think that there's this notion that people think that we're brooding philosophers, or you're a brooding poet, but really there's so much warmth and humor and cheer that goes into it. So I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were on just art and happiness and all that good stuff.
That's a pretty awesome question.
That is an awesome question. I will second that with the same word. I couldn't even think of a better word.
Cool.
I think that Nietzsche, he nails it. You either come into your life, have it happen to you, and sometimes when you say that, it doesn't end bad. Sometimes it makes you happy. Sometimes those people are absolutely content and should be content. And there are those who you obviously have a twinge of the bipolar mania, ADD, ADHD, the alphabet soup. And there's some of us who have these heavy privileges of a unique personality. We sometimes have to manufacture our happiness. That's not to say that it's fake. That's to say that we have to not resign to a world that doesn't need us, that doesn't love us. We realize that world is not where we fit. Now, many see that as despondent, and all artists do. You go through that Kafka moment, as I call it. But if you make the right decisions and you work with the right people for the right reasons, Miracles happen every single day, but you have to go through those trials and those tribulations of the first half of those who seem to have everything handed to them. And the thing is that person probably went through trials that we don't know anything about, because those like us who do this don't broadcast on Facebook when we're hurting. And when we have a bad decision, or we made a bad decision, or we're looking at a decision, we're not looking at the world because we look in here. No one can kick the hell out of us like we do. But at the same time, once you get on the other side and you realize that it's not a sad thing that people need others to put things in a language, whether it be poetry or short stories or in philosophy, in prose and essays or online in a story. They need us. Like people need farmers. Like people need doctors. Like people need lawyers. Like people need clerks in the gas stations. We're all equally privileged. We're all equally created to do what we do well. And if you do and you love it, then that's art. And you don't work a day in your life, and that's the other side that Nietzsche's talking about. That once you get a hold of these demons, once you look in the abyss and that monster looks you right back in the face, and you just kind of say, we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to work together on this.
Completely agree. I think the way that I've always looked at it, like people always ask me about why I don't seem happy or this or that. I've never really particularly cared for what I call like an ephemeral happiness, but I've always been more interested in making meaningful relationships with Jordan and building this project together, making a meaningful connection to you on the show today. Meaning has always, so long as I've pursued meaning, the happiness has come in tow. That's what I found. And I learned that from a philosopher as well. I learned that from the philosopher Hannah Arendt, and she talks about how one creates meaning, and that she's one of those philosophers that completely altered my perspective. And we're reading someone that I think Jordan and I are building a class right now on an existentialist philosopher named Simone de Beauvoir. Interesting. Women have taught me.
I got a friend you got to talk to, Peter Restoutia. But keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the greatest lessons that I've learned about happiness and meaning have been from two European mid-century women philosophers, French and German. I mean, Arendt's a German. So, but Simone is French. So,
shit. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I for whatever reason, it seems women are particularly good at instructing me about meaning. So,
women have always been. I'm not lying. I'm not trying to be cool or PC. They are women. We'll figure it out. They will figure it out quick. That's the Lord's biggest joke was when he's like, y'all watch this, and then wired us completely backwards, and then let us go. They got to figure it out. They just don't tell us. And I mean, I'm literally putting my life on the line saying this stuff on a wide medium. There is another one. He knows too much. They're like, baby, look at my girl. That baby, you're going to have to kill him in his sleep. I know it's pretty, but you're going to kill him in his sleep. You heard him. He went on radio and got on them YouTubes, on the interwebs. Talking the truth. He's got to go. So can I read a poem too?
Yeah, please do. Why don't we close it out with your poems and Cliff? This has been a really engaging episode we've done. I hope we can do this again. I hope it's something that you're interested in.
I was going to ask you the same thing because I honestly don't know if I answered any of your questions. Did I answer any questions?
Yeah, you did, buddy.
I'm being absolutely serious. You'd be like, look, goddamn dude, keep a tangent, man.
No, man.
We need to do this. We need to do this like a series. I ain't commenting your show. Your stuff will always be your stuff.
Yes,
but people in the group like Felinio A. Seriano, James Duncan, he's an affiliate. And then we've got, just not even trying to name drop people. Like people that like you need that would be great on your show. You're a groovy. I like both of y'all. Both of y'all are my cool book forever.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. This poem is called Gas Station Purgatory. And I was in a line gas station. They ain't always good, they ain't always bad. But here in Georgia, when we have the lottery, I have no beef with that lottery. I have beef with the people that I'm late for something, and I'm typically late, because in the South, we get there directly. real soon. Not for you to get pissed off and late. Directly, we're coming. At any rate, you're late a little bit. And here's somebody, I want 47 number 2s, 22 number 3s. This person can't remember the phone number, but they know how many lottery tickets and exactly which one. Anyway, there it is. Spiritual. So anyway, you're standing in line. It's purgatory. That's where this poem comes from. You're just trying not to be judgmental. And you're trying to be nice and smile because that's what you do. And so this poem is called Gas Station Purgatory.
Proceed.
People drone into tiny phones. Their mouths are ragged metal that clang while I am standing in line. I am deaf to everything else but that clamoring in. Their ruckus is a jumble of nonsense pilfered from some relative or friend or TV show. Sartre's right about other people. This gas station is necessary. I'm stuck, strangled by lottery tickets. The beef jerky looks lethal, but there's legal speed for the graveyard shift in the back. That clanging is a test. Untitled Purgatory.
All right.
Should I fall asleep?
No,
Is that
man.
bad?
No.
Gotcha.
Just in awe of it.
Yeah, we're just kind of spellbound, I think.
Yeah.
And dude, I'm not ever trying to talk bad dad about it either, but like when things get serious, like when the emotions serious. Because I'm weird like everybody else. It's, with like
I don't know because I've never had a poem read to me over Skype and then recorded onto a
Exactly.
video that will then be converted
Bunch
into
of
audio.
firsts,
I don't know if we're supposed to snap or applaud or just meditate.
No.
I chose meditation.
I always say
like
the name first, and that's why I say it at the end, kind of, because you don't know. And then it's like then you want to clap, and that person's just waiting for you feel like that dick. Like you go to clap and it's not over. You're like, oh shit, But then sometimes they look up like I know it's over. We haven't worked out an end word, so that's why I say this title at the end to show the mark.
You know what? I've only seen a poem read on TV to a talk show host once ever, and it's an old episode of William F. Buckley's Firing Line, and he was interviewing Allen Ginsberg, and have you seen that episode?
No.
Well, so he's just kind of beaten up on Ginsberg because Buckley's the more philosophically trained, whereas Ginsberg is kind of the poet. And then Ginsberg recites a poem for Buckley that he composed for that occasion, and these two juggernauts. Buckley eventually just marvels at this man that he considered to be his opposition and his opponent, and you can see that Ginsberg wins his respect with the poem, and Buckley is just spellbound and in awe of him upon the completion of the poem. It's the only other time I've ever seen it. You should check it out on YouTube. Maybe I'll put it in the link for this or something like that.
I will. I mean, what's happened is that we're not supposed to speak the same language. We're not supposed to. It's the whole Tower of Babel, or whatever reason it is you buy into, but we all speak different. In the interview, what Ginsberg did, I haven't seen it, but what I'm guessing is that when he read the poetry, it's saying the melody of not being overly poetic, that this philosopher could hear and go, you're saying, not what I'm saying exactly, then that giving that bow, that's the ultimate, who was it?
Well, I think
Voltaire who said, I don't agree with you, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it. Was that Voltaire?
I'd have to do a Google search, but
so don't run that until you find out whether they're going to be. That's who said that. But that's kind of the same place. The highest, and to tolerate something is not to accept it or to say it's right. These terms have become so hot now that we can't talk about them even in public and barely in school. And that's why nothing ever gets better. That's what philosophy is discourse. Epicurus, the word to be Epicurean, that's become like synonymous with, luxury, which is the exact antithesis of what Epicurus was. He said, with a pot of cheese and my friends, I've got everything.
Yeah.
And so, but somewhere in the middle of that is where you find us. Like, how do you make poetry? How do you make philosophy? Bring in people. You do want to broaden minds, but if they bought tickets to get there too, to pay for your gas and pay some of your bills, that'd be fantastic. And if we weren't talking about art and philosophy, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about money. It's not about, it's you give the people exactly what they want. You trick them a little bit, but you don't call it what it is. And when you get it in there, they make that connection in their mind. They see, oh, no, I don't feel like you've tricked me. You have to use honestly, I can see us doing a show together. And we have a brother who's on town. You're coming on that path. It's awesome. It's not. I got another one.
Let's do two more and bring it to a close. I've actually need to get rolling here, but why don't you read one or two more?
Okay, I'll do. Let's see. I'll do two more from the current book and then one from the new one.
Sounds good.
Is that cool?
All right.
Okay. Blues solo. Bloodshot on a moon-hung highway. I wear my soul like a chore. This solid 67 Impala rolls with mellow wheels and hauls me home to Crawford. I can't seem to shake the line. It ain't nobody's fault but mine. I feel like a prophet with smoke in his eyes, saying rhyme that burns like brimstone. It's the spell of her love letters, left on the back seat beneath John Lee Hooker's guitar. You see, I am bewitched. I have come unstitched, and a rosary swings from the rearview mirror. But nighttime is only a shade of day. It passes. This isn't the Blues Cafe in Smyrna where I read John Agard poems while my last romance got a headstone. Sitting there, I first heard the line, "It ain't nobody's fault but mine." However, this lady says she'll forgive me, inviting these bones back for safekeeping. Car grumbling, trembling apart, trees eat into my periphery. For months, this man has been a wasteland. I haven't shaved in 5 days, and a shower wouldn't kill me. Blues solo.
We'll do the clap check.
I'll do the snaps.
Dig it.
You know,
Okay.
You know, Cliff, I think what might be cool for future installments, what I would love to do is if we just took like one of your poems and analyzed it for an episode or something like that.
I will be on. I'm due.
Would you be interested in
If
that?
I was there, I'd kiss you on the face. Jordan, you too.
Thanks.
With no tongue. It would be cool. It'd be cool. I'd love that, dude. I can send you. I'll send you both, but you gotta keep it on the DL. I will come at you.
Yep.
I will come at you. I don't know if I'm very threatening through this. I feel tiny.
Come at me, bro.
I know, dude. It's like mini and tiny. And you too, Jordan. You're a little dog, dude. But anyway, so I'll email both of y'all. Both of y'all, Athena, the new book. But y'all gotta keep it on the DL.
We will.
Yep.
Like, I know y'all won't. You know what I'm saying, but you just say it just to say it anyway.
Sure.
I've got my the book. I have the poem.
Well,
6 chapters.
how can we get a copy? If we wanted to get a copy of it, how can we get it? Oh, this one hasn't come out yet.
You talking about Athena Departs? You talking about my first one? My first one's out at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You can get it anywhere. You can get it in Kindle.
And the second one is about to come out.
The second one comes out in September. But I'll send you what's being edited and worked on right now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that you can,
Fantastic.
if you can do so, that way you ain't got to pay for like the new one. You can do a poem out of the new book. That way you ain't got to go buy it. But if you want to buy the first book, it's still at Barnes & Noble and Amazon. It's still in print.
Cool.
Sweet.
And it's about to come out in hardback too.
Right on.
No joke. No joke, dude. I mean, it's weird. It's weird. And that tone and dude and sweet. I'm the youngest one. I'm not trying to be super cool. I'm not. I mean, you give up a lot. You sacrifice a lot to think and to be and to do stuff. So blah blah blah. You gotta get past all that. It's fun.
Definitely.
It's a good life. You know, it's like and then a lot of this wisdom that you hear me spitting out my mouth, like smells like Christmas morning, like brand new plastic, is because it's brand new. Like, don't be thinking that I've figured this out forever and just been keeping it a secret. It is fun to see two people like y'all, truly, because we wouldn't be talking. Y'all have tons of shit to do, and so do I, and we wouldn't be talking if it was not meant to be something, and that's important. And no, I'm not telling y'all anything that you don't know, you know, but it's this is how we make it. This is how we make poetry. This is how we make philosophy matter again.
Most
Not to me, and not to y'all, but because we are, all three of us, extremely intelligent. All of us are gifted. See, I can use this language now that people can't tell. You know, we can't use it a lot, and it sounds like I'm bragging to do it now, and I'm not. And when the zombie apocalypse comes, and you need somebody that can like fix a car and make it go, it's really important. Don't come to me. I know some, so I know I'm still. I'm not putting myself down, but I'm just being real. But I would love, honestly, to get the first book. If you got that, I mean, I'll come and I'll even sign for it, whatever we have to do.
Cool.
And then I'll email you whenever you wish. I'll email you both the working manuscript for Athena Departs, because I would just love to have your opinions.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
We would love to read it. We would love to read it.
So
Should we bring things to a close, or do you have one more that you want to read?
I'll do one more. I'll do the last one, and it's from Athena Departs. And it's from it's a real experience in life. For 6 years, I worked as a juvenile probation officer. And then 4 after that, I worked for Department of Family and Children's Services and the foster care and then family preservation.
That's some intense
During
stuff.
that period of time, do it.
That's some intense stuff.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of material from there, but with me, that's where Ignoratium, which is in the first book, the fourth afterlife, giving a tip to Dante. I love Dante. He's in my top 3. That's my boy. But I thought the place that's worse than hell, it's seeing some of these people that came into these court cases that hurt women and hurt children. And I thought one day there's got to be a place worse than hell. So I invented one. And I literally never intended for Ignoratium because I thought who would read an epic poem? And they did. So at any rate, this is from that same period in time where this guy who had been addicted and put in prison probably 15, 20 years prior was being brought back for some reason, like a review or something. I mean, he had been in prison like 20 years. I mean, this piece of you gone. And his whole family, I'm sitting there as a probation officer waiting on my case to come in. And they have to take everybody out because it's juvenile court. And I'm waiting. And this is the exact story. This is as I'm looking around the courtroom and taking things in and figuring things out. And this is, I mean, again, with me, if you think that's what it is, like in here, I guarantee you that's probably what it is. It's called Murderer Returned. The courtroom cradles a crowd held in place by macabre fascination. Old women hiss about bad blood. A preacher skulks in the back. Many seem to hold their breath, anticipating agony. Apparently, this gossiping sewing circle gathers this afternoon to share the room with a beast. The bailiff points to a family that files in with hopes to find their fiend still rotting. The maniac's son is a policeman. He's away from the others, silent, slump-shouldered, thick hands clenched, like he's holding on to hope. Zipped up in inmate orange, the murderer, an old chaperone baboon, chink, chink, chinks to center stage. Grunting, smelling the sad, sick air, the prisoner peers out. And he sees me spy his condition. An uncomplicated, ruddy skull. I stare at the product of an addicted end and feel nothing. Lawyers nod, whisper, the judge is satisfied, and then the bones are led away. The reporter skips out. Friends, unnerved, chuckle nervously. The policeman remains in his seat. He is a boy disinherited again. The heavy son is slump-shouldered. Thick hands no longer clenched. I bet it's because the boy let his daddy go. Murderer Return.
That's good, man.
Yeah, I can't do better than that. I can't do better than that. There's nothing. That's
probably.
That was the first time I was like, oh, I'm trying not to be like, take this to be an outtake. Like, woo, would you feel that, girl?
That was probably my favorite, man. That was probably my favorite.
I'm on the wheel, y'all on my Christmas card list. I will show up. I will bail you out of jail. Call me.
Excellent. All right, bro. Thank you so much for coming on today. We're gonna get the audio up, awesome. And we'll get the video cleaned up, and hopefully we'll get it on the app this afternoon. Yeah. So if you all are interested,
that would be cool, dude. Man, I love y'all. Thank you, seriously. Yeah. And like all I said, we got the magazine, the Blue Mountain Review comes out on the 10th of May. If you can give me some kind of link to y'all's app and your phone, I will put it in the magazine, and then every subsequent one that comes after, so you change.
We'll do, and we'll scheme about doing a future episode. Yeah. Okay, buddy.
Yeah, dude, and interviews. We need the next issue as an interview with both of y'all in our magazine. So, yes, get off here because I've got important poetry things to do.
All right. Take care, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Be good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.